I was on for a few minutes at Goldie Gamari. I know, I'm just pissed at this bullshit. Um, what NASA's doing. Um, we have re-engineered craft. We have all these UFO re-engineered craft that could go from here to the moon to other galaxies. And I don't know how people could be so fucking retarded of not knowing that UFOs and ETs are real. How could people be so fucking retarded? And these stupid scientists, so-called scientists that are 1,000 years behind my intelligence, and I have about the lowest IQ there is. And I know the truth and everything. And what NASA doing is they're trying to make themselves relevant so that they don't get money taken away. Because fact is, what they're doing is a fucking scam with everything. Let's see if I can get this right. It pisses me off to the core. You know, I've done, live streams where caught some UFOs. I don't know if everyone, how much other people were able to see. I put out my own videos and stuff like that. That, I've taken and stuff and pictures and everything. It pisses me off to the fucking core. I don't know, it's like, how can people be so fucking retarded? And we have stuff on the moon, and everything, assets on the moon, and everything. China's has their place on the dark side of the moon, and I've heard that we have assets there on the moon, and around, Jupiter, stuff like that, and Mars, of course. And I don't know, it pisses me off. Let's see. Let's see. Copy. I probably shouldn't bother with this. Let's see. Now this. Damn, my nose always itches only when I do this live stream stuff. Oh man. I don't know, it just pisses me off. But how convenient for YouTube. And I'm not out there, nobody's watching this shit. But I mean, it's a fucking scam, this whole thing. But why does my nose only itch when I do this shit? I'm beyond pissed, and this stupid ass scientist, on this live stream, say how aliens probably couldn't exist or anything, and all the shit they do to right my fucking backyard, or my front yard, whatever. I videotaped UFOs here, and communicated a bit with them. And how are people so fucking retarded, so fucking stupid? That with all the congressional hearings that we've had, which I don't give a shit about that. It doesn't matter what people in intelligence or military say. whistleblowers say. I already know that they're real. I've always known that. I knew that I've had my first UFO experience when I was a kid. And I know people that have worked at these secret sites and everything. And, been around the craft of 1947 Roswell crash and everything. And it's like, how retarded are people? How dumb and stupid are these so-called scientists? They're not scientists or physicists or whatever that say that they shouldn't even have a job if they don't know anything about UFOs, if they don't think that they're real. They shouldn't have a job whatsoever. Because then you're living in the fucking Stone Age. And you're retarding your class. You're making your kids dumb that you're teaching. You're just like making them Neanderthals and stuff like that. It's like, it's the dumb leading the dumb, pretty much. Aldrin's UFO story. What is this? I decided, dude, I just need to moon pigeons and stuff like that, stuff on the moon, and oh god, it's so full of bullshit lists. What's this?
To do that if it was there was a specific person, but the NASA archive does not
I just come on here to
allow you to ask any specific image specialist about this. There's just a very general contact form. So they have not been asked by me. I don't know if they've been asked by anyone else. As far as I know, these images were not discovered by anybody else before. So it's definitely worth...
of course, NASA airbrushes pictures that have UFOs in them.
Ask and yeah, and it's not just UAPs of this type, like these triangular lights. Here's another Apollo 12 photograph from the lunar surface. So this is the lunar surface. There's just
so this is Apollo 11, did you say?
This is from
Apollo 12.
This is
Sorry.
Apollo 12 again. So the previous one was
Shout out.
Apollo 12. This is Apollo 12 as well.
Very used.
Up here in the corner, we see something very, very bright and luminous.
Could be a star.
And if we zoom in,
Maybe not.
Ah, I mean, wow, that's
That is the
looks like
UFO.
almost an
ball,
egg
the
shape,
center
dare I say.
light. Yeah.
That's not a star.
Egg-shaped, and it has a bluish inner core, it seems. And we can brighten the image to just get more detail, perhaps, into what it looks like. And it's almost like leaving a trail or a contrail in something, and it's clearly very bright. Doesn't look like it's reflecting sunlight.
The flurry
and
UFOs I've seen.
There's nothing else really like it.
It's interesting that if NASA is, as we've discussed earlier, there's the accusation that NASA has been deliberately tampering with photographs to remove anomalous objects. It's interesting that these are the original slides, and with the knowledge of the day, we didn't have Photoshop, we didn't have the digital abilities that we have now with converting slides to digital images.
Wow.
With one in a red flare of some sort. And they are the only trio of lights like this anywhere in the photograph. There are no other lights anywhere in the lunar sky, not in the shadows, nowhere else. And yeah, they're different color, but they're still a trio of lights of some sort coming over this hill, it seems. Again, NASA has not acknowledged it. Now, Mike Gold, president of Redwire Space, the tech company that built the cameras for the Blue Ghost lunar mission earlier last year, he showed this particular image through me, so I sent this image to him, and then he showed them to Representatives Burchett, Luna, and Burleson in a congressional briefing on UAP. So at least this particular photograph is in the record, but nobody from NASA since then, and he did this back in March of last year, nobody from NASA since then has come forward to try to explain away this particular anomaly or photograph from Apollo.
What I don't understand is, I mean, again, I mean, it's consistent that, you know, what you're describing here, this isn't speculative nonsense. I mean, these are objects that have been detected on the surface of the moon that are clearly showing anomalies on film slide. I mean, this isn't something that could have been digitally altered or an artifact. I mean, maybe there's the argument that it's some kind of artifact left on the slide, maybe a piece of dust or a mote.
Yeah, people could argue that.
No explanation for it. But the fact that there's never been an attempt by NASA to explain it, to me, is utterly bewildering.
But I've seen other stuff on the moon as well.
Yeah. In fact, I've checked. There are older scans of this particular frame. And in those other scans done in different years and different branches of NASA, you still see the trio of lights here. It's blurrier, the quality is lower, but it's still clearly there. So that indicates that this trio of blue lights is actually on the film itself. It's not an artifact of the scanning process. So this keeps happening. And then here, this is the very... actually, let me switch over. So at this point, I would like to show you a different Apollo 17 photograph. So before I explain what these are, let me just say that you see tracks here because they were in this lunar rover driving on the moon. And so that's why we see the tracks. And then one of the astronauts, either Eugene Cernan or Harrison Schmitt, got off the rover and took a photograph of the landscape. It turns out in this photograph, there are two things in the sky, which I circled here in red. One is here, and one is here. Now, I downloaded a lower resolution version because just to save memory, to do this more easily. But in the very next image I'll show you, I'm going to zoom in on this one here in the highest resolution available.
Oh, wow.
And that's what we get, a sort of greenish, bluish, metallic looking thing with a very bright sheen on one side, which, by the way, happens to be oriented towards the location of the sun. And the same with the other UAP on top. It also has this luminous glow.
Not UAP.
And if we enhance the bigger one, the first UAP, we get much more detail, and it looks to be enveloped in something. And it seems to have a sort of faint contrail, which we'll see more of later. But it's enveloped in something, and that is very strange. It doesn't make sense to me if there's nothing in the lunar sky.
And spare me the suspense, Max. No explanation, no response from NASA for this. Has NASA ever been asked about these?
Nope. No, not even these. These I discovered only about maybe June of last year, and as far as I know, nobody else has identified these particular. Here's just a brightening of that image. This very same image. I just turned up the brightness in Photoshop, essentially. And you can see both of the UAPs. One here, the bigger one, and the smaller one. And notice both of them are enveloped in some sort of a casing. And then they both have little jets or contrails in the same direction. No comment from NASA. And I've not seen anyone else identify them or explain them. And here, by the way, is a sort of further enhanced version. I just adjusted the hue and saturation to get more details to come out of the photograph. And it certainly looks like a more structured object to me, and it looks fairly symmetrical. And again,
well, if it is an alien spaceship, Max, it's a bloody good-looking spaceship. I mean, I want to go for a fly.
Jade.
Yeah, me too. It certainly looks like nothing I've ever seen, and the other one as well. And it's interesting also because if we go to the very next frame, so this was all part of one particular frame. If we go to the very next photograph taken, they're no longer in the sky, but there is this gap or cutout of the very same type, and nothing appears to be.
Do you think that's been tampered with?
No, it was from my own experiences. It's like they're messing with cloaking a little bit. It's like they're not trying to be noticed too much. They're trying not to get noticed too much. When I see the UFOs out here that I see and stuff like that, sometimes they'll dim themselves out a bit. They'll still be there and everything, but not as easy to see. And so I'm pretty sure that's what they're doing with this. But
I don't know. I don't know.
I think
Maybe,
they're
or
doing
maybe
themselves a little bit wrong.
the thing is cloaked. Who
Going
knows?
in and out of space,
It's hard to
time
say
bit.
because
No.
if this was
Could be.
tampered with, then why weren't
Yeah.
the other ones?
What's the
say
beam?
that's
What's
the
what's
opposite.
the apparent
But I-
beam
yeah,
of
I-
light that's coming up from the surface of the moon there?
Yes. I don't know what this is either. There shouldn't be a beam of light of sorts because, again, this is supposedly just a black lunar sky with no debris, no structures, no nothing. So I don't know why this is here. And as usual, and I also don't know why there are these blocky cutouts in the image. This doesn't make sense either. And there are a number of images of NASA's where these different scans which do not show this. So I do not know why this image under enhancement shows these strange blocky
But
structures.
do you have a suspicion that this has been digitally manipulated after the slide was produced?
I do, and the reason I do is the following. This is an Apollo 12 photograph.
That looks like
Actually, we
that.
saw a different version of this. So this was taken by, this was scanned by the Marshall Space
Let's
Flight
see something
Center
right here.
in 2009. And you can see there's a lot of debris in the lunar sky here.
Yeah,
A lot of different debris.
right.
And it becomes more visible when we brighten the image.
What's the debris?
You remember this?
It's them.
I don't know. And
It's them.
NASA does not, Marshall Space Flight Center does not explain what any of this stuff is.
Yeah, I remember some of the astronauts saying that there was all these UFOs there, and this is why we made a set in case that they could have film from them being really on the moon, then they could reenact it from a stage and everything, because NASA knew, that there was, that things like this could happen, and they did not want people to know about ETs and UFOs. They wanted that a secret and everything. And like I said, this whole thing with NASA is a scam, because we have re-engineered craft right now that could be on the moon back and forth. We could have built, I'm dead sure that we already have stuff there on the moon and everything. It's just all big lights, all BS. It's all bullshit, and NASA wants to remain relevant. They don't want to get shut down. And I think that they felt threatened before. I remember when the director of NASA said there seems to be evidence of ETs, and we've had stuff of UFOs. Last year, or a couple of years before, he decided to change that and everything. So that guy is a sociopathic liar and everything else. But I remember, people talking about where, UFOs and other objects. And UFOs, they don't all look the same. And some of these things I've seen look like worms, huge big worms, but they seem alive. You know, like it could be some type of robot, AI type stuff. But they all come in different weird shapes and sizes. And the astronauts were saying that they were always being followed by these UFOs and lots of them. You know,
I did an upscaling using a machine learning program called Topaz Labs Gigapixel, which NASA also sometimes uses for its imagery to upscale it. And you get a lot more detail in the lunar sky of whatever this debris is. What's interesting is that the very same photograph, the very same frame number from Apollo 12 can be found in another NASA archive. And we actually saw it already. It is the one with the blue or the reddish ball of plasma here. So now if we just brighten this image, okay, and this is the one with the blocky structures.
Yep.
You see the blocky structures? Those were not present in the Marshall Space Flight Center scan. Not only that, but we can also see in the middle of the image these blue lines cutting across the entirety of this particular scan. And those are not at all present in the Marshall Space Flight Center version of this image. So the blocky structures are not there, and these blue lines are not there either. As we can see. So this is, I would say, a major discrepancy between the two. It's the same photograph, two different scans, 2 different years, 2 different NASA centers, but they have significant discrepancies in the lunar sky, except for this plasma ball.
I mean, that's a very real luminous object. Interesting. Very interesting. And the most vexing and frustrating thing, of course, is that we just don't get an explanation. And I just want to remind the American public, you guys paid for this. Yeah. The American taxpayer funded NASA's extraordinary achievements with the Apollo moon landing missions. Surely this technology that achieved this should be open to the public. The public should have a right to see not only the high-resolution imagery, but all of the imagery. And moreover, the scientific effort that's been put into analysing these images should be publicly available. I don't quite understand why there should be any censorship or redaction of imagery if that's indeed the case. What's this one?
I agree. This is from the same Apollo 17 sequence as we saw the 2 other UAPs in the sky. So I just zoomed in. It was a photograph taken from the surface. And it's just there in the sky. It looks like a metallic structure.
Well, that's why I said they were UFOs,
as you can see.
UAP.
And brightening this results in this object having certain structure and also having a trail and being enclosed in some sort of a black pocket of some sort. So it's the same type of UAP.
Why would any object moving through the non-atmospheric lunar orbit, why would it leave a trail of any kind? There's no dust. We know from our previous show that there's no dust that could explain why there would be any sort of a trail. Why would there be a trail per se?
That's their technology, stuff that they use.
Well, either there is some sort of medium that when something moves through it, it leaves a contrail, or whatever this object is, if it's a physical object in the lunar sky, it's maybe ejecting some sort of ejecta from behind it, and that's part of how it propels itself. In either case, we have a massive anomaly, something that absolutely should not be there on the standard mainstream scientific view of what the moon is.
It's funny, Max, I often think about that press conference where Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, Michael Collins were sitting in front of the assembled media after their incredible achievement, landing the first man on the moon in 1969. And you would have thought that they would have shown, I think, a sense of ebullience and huge excitement. But when you see that press conference, all of them looked, for some reason, incredibly deflated. And a lot of people have commented that their response was quite anomalous in and of itself. I just wonder if what they saw in the moon was so vexing, so baffling, that they were frustrated that they weren't able to tell the public the full story.
I have to say, given all of these anomalies and photographs, Buzz Aldrin's sort of odd, seemingly contradictory change in his account of the UAP they saw, I think that's fairly likely. And as you mentioned earlier, Edgar Mitchell and his sighting of blue lights on the moon. So this is from Apollo 14, Edgar Mitchell's mission, where he walked on the moon. We saw already in the last
they were watching all the time.
A photograph of him standing in the foreground, and we saw some discrepancies between two archives. So here's another photograph from that same sequence. Black lunar sky, lunar surface. As usual, I think Mitchell is standing somewhere to the right off the image. Now this is from NASA's Lunar and Planetary Institute archive, officially run by NASA, an official NASA archive. Anyone can download this image. Let me brighten the image.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
What is this cutout? Wow. This bluish cutout near the top. It looks like it's been tampered with. It looks like something has been removed, perhaps, or blackened out, which gets revealed when you just brighten up the image. And sure enough, if we go to the more recent scan of this image and the Johnson Space Center archive, which is here, this is the exact same photograph, the exact same frame number from the same mission. In that exact spot where the cutout appears.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
This.
Okay, that's just extraordinary. So basically, do you think it's an accident that this newer scan has come through? It's fallen through the cracks, perhaps?
You get rid of this shit. That looks terrible.
I would imagine it's deliberate.
Do you think somebody's sympathetic? Somebody in NASA's sympathetically released this so we all notice it?
That seems more likely to me, because in the previous case, the Lunar and Planetary Institute, that scan is actually older. I believe it's from the 1990s or the early 2000s. This one is from around 2015-16. So maybe at one time they didn't want these things to appear in the images. Maybe that changed as a policy, or maybe there was some sort of NASA technician who just said, you know what, I'll just leave this in, even though I was told to remove it, and just let's see if anyone notices.
Okay, Max, let's just explore this for a moment. I mean, clearly that looks like the possibility of it being some kind of structured object. It's consistent with what Edgar Mitchell described that he saw, which are lights, blue lights, from the surface of the moon, and also while he was traveling in orbit. Is there a prosaic explanation? Is there anything blue that might explain that prosaically?
The closest that I've been able to find as a sort of post hoc explanation is that cosmic rays striking the camera film as the photograph was being taken produced this sort of a blue image, or maybe an electrical discharge, perhaps. But I don't
in any academic discussion.
And again, no explanation.
This is so frustrating. I mean, we should have an explanation. I mean, there are allegations here, quite grave.
Let's see. I want to see what else he has. anything. Nothing.
Occasionally repeating phenomenon doesn't appear in most of the frames, but occasionally it seems to occur. And again, no explanation.
I know the problem with me is it pisses me off. It really does, this scam with NASA and everything, and people not knowing that UFOs, ETs are real. I wish YouTube gave me more visibility with this, but sometimes usually they don't. But me, I see UFOs all the time out here and everything. I made contact. Like I said, I was watching Goldie Gamari, and there are these idiots that thinking these stupid scientists, physicists, yeah, totally retarded, and thinking that there's no way that life could be, some people think that we have made contact and that, ETs, UFOs can't be real, I can't, such idiocy with so many people. I hate those people because it's like they're like Neanderthals to me.
Well, hello and welcome back to Reality Check. I'm your host, Ross Coulthard, and today we've got a story that I hope will address one of the biggest issues I get asked about the most on Reality Check. There are two things I often get asked. Did the Apollo lunar moon landings happen?
Yes, they
did. They really land on the moon?
But there's
and
also stages,
is there any evidence of artificial structure?
It's unusually symmetrically circular, and it also has this...
Because, the point that you make in this imagery is quite well made. Just to give the audience a heads up, what you are going to see are rectangular shapes, rectangular patterns, structural, artificial-looking patterns on the lunar surface.
That's right. Exactly the kinds of examples that Sagan was referring to as departures from thermodynamic equilibrium, which would be signs or potential signs of ET intelligence. Now, Sagan admits that this is not a perfect criterion, and I admit that too. Nonetheless, artificial structures, if they exist, are highly likely to have these sorts of non-equilibrium, thermodynamically non-equilibrium configurations. And so it is a fairly reliable guide, and as we'll see, such structures do exist on the moon. Before we get there, this is an image on the left-hand side of an ancient fortress in Uzbekistan called Koy Krilgan Kala. And so notice on the left-hand side, this is an aerial shot of the fortress. Notice that at first sight, it might look like it could be an impact crater of some kind because of its circular shape. But if you look a little bit more closely, you see that it's unusually symmetrically circular. And it also has this circular depression surrounding it like a moat, and it's relatively uniform. And it stands out relative to the surrounding background terrain of this desert region. So if you moved in every direction, you would not see any sort of geometrical patterned structure like this. And sure enough, once excavated, it showed in all its glory, all of its intricate geometry and structure as an artificially built formation of some kind. And it was built actually over 2,000 years ago. So this is the kind of approach that we can take to the moon. We can look for geometrical structures or formations on the lunar surface that stand out as highly unusual compared to the surrounding background. And we can also look for energetic phenomena, heat phenomena that are, say, standing out unusually. Story about the NASA DoD Clementine mission. Would you like me to
Yeah, please do. Yeah, I think this is important.
Okay. Yes. So NASA and the Department of Defense, they collaborated actually in 1994 on a lunar mission. They sent a probe to the moon to take high-resolution digital images of the moon's surface, the entirety of the surface. It's not well known to the public, but this was in fact done. There are official documents establishing it was done. And the mission is known in the scientific community for having discovered ice on the moon's poles. And according to NASA and the DoD, through the official NASA website about the mission, the objective of the Clementine mission was to make scientific observations of the moon. And these observations included imaging at various wavelengths, laser ranging altimetry, charged particle measurements, for the purposes of assessing the surface mineralogy of the moon. However, one of the deputy managers of the Clementine mission, this man, Dr. John Brandenburg, contradicted the officially stated purposes of the mission. So in 2014, he was interviewed about the mission, and he made this statement. The Clementine mission was a photo reconnaissance mission, basically to check out if someone was building bases on the moon that we didn't know about, and were they expanding them. Brandenburg also says in this same interview, after the Clementine probe completed imaging of the lunar surface, the Department of Defense team examined the photographs and kept to themselves, and he and his colleagues were told not to interfere with them unless they had a special reason. So only the higher-ups from the Naval Research Lab went up there and examined the photographs. So after I saw this interview, I was intrigued, and I wrote to Dr. Brandenburg and asked why his statements contradicted the officially stated reasons for the Clementine mission, and whether or not he was ever allowed to see the high-resolution images returned. And he responded to me in March of last year, I have been firmly advised that I cannot comment further on the Clementine mission, except to say that it was very successful and accomplished its mission at the moon. I will also say that my role was as a deputy, one of several, to the mission manager concerning mission operations, but not image collection or analysis. And then he goes on to kind of joke about the idea of aliens on the lunar far side. And I'm sorry I cannot be of more assistance.
I should point out
over there.
Yes. John Brandenburg, I mean, he's a controversial figure inside space science because he has stuck his neck out. I mean, for example, he recently predicted, I understand, that NASA would announce the existence of life on Mars sometime this year. And he's also pointed quite extensively to imagery not only on the moon, but also particularly on Mars, and suggested that there's evidence of a civilization that once existed on Mars's surface. So he's been taken on a bit by establishment science. I think we need to ensure that people recognise that, you know, in this field, Dr. Brandenburg is a controversial figure.
Absolutely. He is controversial. What's interesting to me, though, is that despite his controversy, nobody from the Clementine mission was officially associated with it. Nobody from NASA, nobody from the DoD ever contradicted his claims about the Clementine mission's objectives to check out if someone was building bases on the moon, ever since he made the claims. Usually when someone makes a controversial claim about NASA's goals and objectives, someone like James Oberg is trotted out to refute or challenge those claims. But this did not happen with Brandenburg.
Interesting. Okay, so we know that Clementine took these high-resolution images of the lunar surface.
Yes.
Cut to the quick. Has the public seen all of that high-resolution imagery?
No, the vast majority of it is not publicly available, only a handful, and most of them have blurred out large portions that are just oddly blurred out. So this is the website where you can find all of the publicly available Clementine imagery. These are the options. So anyone can go to this website and find the data here. But what's interesting is that these are just some examples I've taken from the lunar backside map. of the Clementine mission. Notice these enormous portions of the map that are just blurred out, or this crater here with this square that's blurred out, or these large portions blurred out.
What explanation does NASA give for the blurring?
None whatsoever. The website back here just allows you to download the images, and this is all of the information available, and that's it. There's no explanation as to why large portions are blurred out in this way, one way or the other. And
could it be a could it be a photo artifact? Could it be a consequence of the technology that they used to stitch the photographs together? I mean, obviously it was a surveyor that was presumably orbiting the planet and scanning. Is the blurring a consequence of the way the photos were stitched together?
I don't see why that would be the case.
It would be
and
different.
If it was the case, I would expect that NASA would say something like that, because these blurred out regions are very common across the near side and backside maps. And
I mean, this is amazing. I mean, it's removing all of the detail below that blurring, isn't it?
Yeah. Right. You can't see anything at all. And it would be a simple way to dispel any sort of concerns about hiding data deliberately, if NASA wanted to avoid those questions or criticisms, but they don't do that. They just post these maps with these blurred out portions and don't say anything further. But what's interesting is that, and also the resolution of these maps is not very good, I should say. The best resolution is about 0.5 kilometer per pixel to 1 kilometer per pixel.
We have better
so
now,
not
too.
high resolution at all. They
My
have
dad
much
worked
higher
on some
resolution
Star Wars
images,
SDI stuff.
but they only release a handful of
We have
them
a lot better than that.
to the public, like these.
We have up close stuff.
There's maybe no more than 5 of these, as recently as at least 2019. Mm-hmm.
So they've used themselves much higher resolution imagery from the Clementine mission. But the public, which paid for it, presumably, isn't allowed to see that high resolution imagery.
The one kept secret.
Or if it's available somewhere, you have to access some very special software to open those images. But that software is not readily available to the general public. It's hot red, according to this scale. Perhaps it's worth also showing the audience some images of the heat anomaly on the lunar backside, which we talked about earlier, the Compton-Belkovich heat anomaly. So this is an official NASA image series showing, so this is the backside of the moon, and it shows the temperature of the backside. But there's this little spot here on the backside, which is just all by itself, and it is significantly brighter than the rest, which is very blue. And it's between 2 ancient craters, Belkovich and Compton, and in this zoomed in image, it's hot red, according to this scale. And then this is a further zoom in of the structure. This is another view of it. So there it's just standing out as significantly warmer.
This credence to why people say that the moon doesn't make sense. It seems like it's just like the moon, is like a shell, empty on the inside and everything. And like it's just a big space station, some of it. And now some people, theorize, some scientists theorize, on the fringe, say, that there have been stories of, Earth without having a moon and stuff like that, in history, so.
Warmer than the rest of the lunar far side or backside. It has about 20 times the heat emitted as the rest of the lunar backside.
Yeah, suspect.
And there are other anomalies. anomalies. It's highly reflective. It has a glass coating. And it turns out from the cratering of the formation, it turns out to be significantly younger than the surrounding lunar backside formations. These craters are estimated to be 3 billion years old, but based on the cratering of the heat anomaly region, it turns out to be only a few 100 million years old. So it's another example of a structure that's anomalous, a formation that's highly anomalous and out of equilibrium.
Is there a high resolution lunar orbiter scan image of that particular area that we can look at that gives us some answers?
Yes, there is. So the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter image, I took this earlier today in the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter quick map. So I zoomed in to a certain scale, and this is about 5 kilometers length. So this is the formation. And you can see that it's significantly brighter and wider because it's reflecting sunlight significantly more than the surrounding terrain. So this is an instance of one of the photographs that can be publicly accessed and downloaded of the anomaly. This is not the best resolution. You can zoom in much more closely, but this shows how much brighter, unusually brighter it is relative to the surrounding terrain.
So just explain to a bear with a very small brain, can you explain to me why is it more reflective? What explanation do they give prosaically for why it would be more reflective?
Right.
Well, they don't really know. NASA scientists, so all of these are links to the research papers by NASA scientists, and they just have determined that because of the anomalous reflectivity, they must be coated with glass. So something or some sort of phenomenon occurred however long ago, maybe hundreds of millions of years ago, that glassified the surface where this heat anomaly is occurring. Or maybe
So
the heat
there's
source
something
below
out
it
there.
glassified the surface, whatever the heat source really is. Okay, so this is another Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter image strip. This is also on the backside of the moon. This is an image of a crater called DeForest crater, about 55 miles across, so quite large, or probably, I don't know.
I think I would stop you here since nobody's in the room or anything, but it does piss me off. Everything that this bullshit with NASA, you're full of shit, NASA, and everything. There are a lot of other retards that believe your shit, NASA, but you're nothing and everything. Some of us do know the truth. And everything we know, your bullshit and everything. And a lot of ways, the NASA that is right now should be shut down and terminated. It's like people are on crack or something. It's like people are on drugs or something. They don't want to know the truth about ETs, UFOs, and that we have these craft that can go to the moon and back in seconds, and other galaxies and stuff like that. Anyways, if people don't believe, I think they should come out here where I am and everything.